There is no easy way to put you on my bedroom floor. Hi, if you watched my last upload, which was a vlog / why I take ovulation tests and pregnancy tests video, definitely go watch that. But in that video sparked this video, so you kind of know what's coming. I guess by the title you know exactly what this is. But I'm currently filming that video and I ended up rambling so long about some of the books that I purchased to read in 2022 that I was like, you know what? You've been wanting to make this like a full video. Tonight I was chatting so long in the vlog that I'm filming about some of the books I bought that I realized, F it. Let's make it a video. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Please let me know if you do. And if this isn't your cup of tea, then I'll see you in a few days with my next video. But if you're looking for some book inspiration for this year and want to see the like 30 books that I bought, because I went on a little shopping spree, keep watching. A fun fact about me is when I'm going through something, I tend to splurge on something specific. Like over the summer, it was crystals. Sometimes it's plants, and I'll go on a plant shopping spree. A few months ago when I was having a hard time, it was workout sets, and I just bought a ton of cute yoga sets. And in December, it was books. This is currently my bedroom floor. Here are all the books that I've recently purchased. Before that though, I want to whip out my 2021 journal and chat real quick about what I read. If I can set up my camera. This is so not straight, oh my god. Me. And chat real quick about the books that I read in 2021, because I've been doing that video since I started this YouTube channel. I'm gonna link them all down below if you want some baby makaykay content. It's so crazy to see it year after year after year after year, and now here we are in 2022. And I want to keep up with it because in my journal for 2021, as with all of my yearly journals, there's a page called Books I Read in 2021, for example, for this journal. Before we get started, please comment down below either what books you read in 2021, what books were your favorite to read last year, or what you were currently reading, what you plan to read this year. I'm always looking for inspiration and more books to add to my own list, as I hope this inspires you and gives you some books to add to yours. Starting back in January 2021, the first book that I read last year was An Invisible Thread. It's one of those books where after I finished it, I was researching all about the story, I was watching interviews, I was looking online at the actual footage of the story, because it's just a crazy true story about how one simple action can truly change somebody's life and the impact that kindness can really have on someone. Because Laura one day gave a child in New York City that was begging for money on the street. He was like 11 years old at the time. She said, I'm not gonna give you money, but I will buy you McDonald's. And they had a meal, and then they had a meal after that, and after that, and after that, and like for 20 years or so, like their entire lives, like she changed his life, and it's just crazy. It was a great book to start my year off with, and I highly recommend. I could not put it down, and then I gave my copy to my mother and I was like, read this. The next book I read was Morning Makeover by Damon Zarahidis, I believe. I think this was a Amazon self-published book, which nothing against that, but if you haven't heard about it, that may be why. It's definitely one of those like self-improvement books on how to change your life by doing small things. It was a really great book. I learned a little bit from it. I will say it was slightly surfacey, but there were some good lessons in it. Ooh, next I read You Are the Effing I guess I can't really say the whole book, but it's on the screen. Again, I think this was an Amazon self-published book. I don't think I would recommend it or give it to a friend, you know, but it might be somebody else's preference, and it is another self-improvement book. I just didn't feel like I learned anything or had a big takeaway from it. The next book I read was The Magic of Manifesting Money, and oh boy, do I recommend this. I recommend this book to everyone. I learned so much. I know I recommend You Are a Badass a lot by Jennifer Sincero, and I get a lot of followers that send me pictures of them reading the book or highlighting their book, and it makes me so happy. If you liked that book and if you want to focus more on how to manifest money into your life, read The Magic of Manifesting Money. This book truly changed the game. It found me at such a pivotal time during my financial journey, during looking for a house. It's a great read. It's not that long. You learn a lot. You can take notes. I took a ton of notes on mine. I annotated it. I'm linking all these books down below, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. Speaking of Jen Sincero, the next book I read was Straight Girl's Guide to Sleeping with Chicks. Enough said. Actually, a little bit on it though. I will say that this book has mixed reviews. Some people really like it. Other people say that it's problematic because it's that take on, oh, I'm straight just because I hook up with women, I'm straight take on sexuality and how it kind of invalidates stuff. I personally didn't attack it that much, and I read it with an open mind, and it was at a time in my life when honestly I had some questions, okay? So it was pretty educational to me. It's exactly what it's called. You don't have to be straight to read it, I'll tell you that. Next, I read Conscious Luck. This book was really, really great too. It was very similar to The Magic of Manifesting Money. Again, kind of like conscious ways to manifest luck into your life and how to be just like a luckier person if you believe in luck or if you believe in fate. I typically believe in like fate and everything happening for a reason, but there were some helpful tips on how to attract luck and blessings that I appreciated, and I do really feel like it worked because hell, I got very lucky last year while I was reading that book. Oh, The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records by Lisa Barnett. A friend gave me a copy of her book. I had never heard of the Akashic Records before she told me all about them. It's basically the records of our souls, I guess, our soul families and our past lives. It was so eye-opening, and there are so many helpful like prayers and things in there that will help you open your Akashic Records if that's something you want to do, and teach you about life beyond this life, which if that's something you were open to the possibility of, you might really enjoy that book. I definitely did, and I learned a lot more about spirituality than I ever thought, because spirituality is such an infinite subject in a way. Like, you can go down so many different paths. Next book I read was by Jen Sincero, and it was You Are a Badass at Making Money. Big fan of Jen Sincero, as you can tell by this video. That book was very, very great to read after reading You Are a Badass. I think it takes the topics of money from that book, You Are a Badass, and really deep dives into, okay, this is how to go from broke to really, really financially well off. Here's all of the steps. Here's how to do it. It doesn't not work, I could tell you that. Like, I definitely think it works, and you do have to put in the work to see the results. Elliot Dasher wrote a beautiful book called Transitions that does help you through hard times and will teach you the blessings of a transition and how change isn't bad. There's beauty in letting go and how it's okay and nothing is permanent. So it was very comforting and a really, really great book to read. Whether you were going through a small transition, whatever the case, like, you can find pieces of advice and warm felt quotes in this book that may help you. The next book I read was recommended to me by my therapist. I love her book recommendations. She and I have very similar reading preferences, so I feel like whatever she recommends I end up loving. And she recommended that I read Attached. I've seen a lot of TikTok videos about it. I've seen articles about it. I feel like it's kind of a common subject now, but if you're unfamiliar with Attached, it's basically about the different attachment styles that adults have in relationships. You either have an anxious attachment style. When is he gonna text me? Oh my God, should I text him this? I'm gonna wait 2 hours to text her this. Will she call me back? Or am I gonna see him again? No, I shouldn't wear that. Like, overthinking everything, being really anxious. Do they like me? Like, that type. Or you could have the avoidant attachment style, which typically doesn't want commitment, hot and cold, texts you a lot one day and then ghosts you the next. Or you have a secure attachment style where you're neither. You're very just like good and groovy, you know? Like, there's trust, there's stability, there's a healthy amount of distance and space, but we still like spending time together. We're communicative. There are quizzes in it. It teaches you a lot of things. It goes through different examples. Through the quizzes, I was able to identify like which relationships in my past where I may have expressed anxious attachment style behavior or avoidant attachment style behavior, or the ones that felt like I had a secure attachment style I knew to hold on to, or at least try to, because I knew that was a good sign. The next book I read was by Pema Chodron, and I really hope I'm saying her name right. I know she's a very phenomenal writer and very well known, and I've kind of seen her name everywhere since I started reading her books. But I read her book called When Things Fall Apart, which I read for the exact reason of the title. I had a very, very difficult summer. I was going through my kind of like my first breakup with a woman, which was like such a different ballpark in a way than breaking up with any guy ever. It was at the exact same time that I was losing my childhood home and I was moving into this home and moving out of my apartment. The battery died, but it was a time when everything felt like it was falling apart at once, and I felt like I had nothing to hold on to because I didn't have my relationship, I didn't have my family or my house, and oh, it was also the same time Bennett moved back to New York, so I didn't have my friend. I felt so alone and life felt harder than it should have. It was a time when I hid a lot of that from the internet, and luckily I had so many moving and renovation vlogs to cover up how I was actually feeling and what was really going on, because I didn't have to film every single day. I just had to film house content, which was such a blessing, but oh boy, I was falling apart. I was falling apart, like I was already apart. And that book put such a fresh perspective on everything. If you're going through a hard time or like to learn about stuff like that, highly recommend. This was the last book that I read for many months, and it was also a book that took me many months to get through. It was also when I just moved into this house and I was distracted and I was depressed and I was focusing on the house, and I was almost avoidant to reading because I knew reading was therapy in itself, and it was work, and it was a book that was supposed to better myself. And so, you know, sometimes you don't feel like doing that, so I put it off for a while. Then I picked up Atomic Habits by James Clear, and things got a little clearer. That was a horrible pun, but this book was pretty popular when it came out. It was a New York Times bestseller. If you haven't heard about it, it's basically about how small habits that you do every single day can have a big effect and change on your life for the better. And it really teaches you whether, you know, what to do, how to do it, and has these theories that I've actually applied in my own life. It's comforting, it's educational, it's easy to read, and I love the type of books where it's like a real person talking about their experience, but it's like self-improvement slash memoir slash here's how to better your life. It's a little bit drier. It reminds me of Malcolm Gladwell in a way, but it's good. The next book I read in one evening. It took me like an hour, but it was so good. It's by Deepak Chopra. I really hope I'm not butchering that name too poorly, because I purchased some other books by him as well. It's the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. It's the little pocketbook edition, and it goes into the 7 spiritual laws of success, which I have since then copied down in my 2022 journal and my manifestation journal, and I live by them. There are moments throughout my day where I remember, oh yeah, the law of detachment, or yeah, the law of effect, like cause and effect, or just like, oh, the law of purpose. Like, it helps me. I would recommend this to anyone. I want to give this to so many people, be like, here, read this. So here, read this. The other night I was writing about praying for a miracle, and then I remembered that he writes in this book, a miracle is simply the expression of law of detachment. No, the law of least effort. My bad, Sam's still learning. But it says, what is commonly called a miracle is actually an expression of the law of least effort. Oh, this one helped me so much. And there were so many times where if Bennett and I were complaining, or if I was frustrated by how a situation was going or timing, I remembered this quote and it helped so much. It goes, it took the entire universe to make this moment. When you struggle against this moment, you struggle against the entire universe. Oh my God, the amount of times that I would complain that I was late, or a car was driving too slow in front of me, or plans got canceled on me, or something changed and I was irritated by it. To remember that, like, if I'm irritated and I'm fighting that moment, I'm fighting the entire universe that came together to make this moment exactly how it is and how it should be. So this really, oh my God. Please read this book. Sort of last book that I read in 2021. Don't judge me if you read this book and you know exactly what I mean when I say what I say about it. But When Katie Met Cassidy. Now, I will say it is incredibly hard to find good queer, lesbian, woman-loving woman, LGBT plus books that aren't young adult or fluffy or just poorly done. And I'm not saying that they're all bad. I'm not saying there aren't good ones. I've read a lot of good ones and I'll tell you that. But I am just ravaging through these bookshops looking for lesbian books, basically. It's a lot harder than you'd think to find some. I will say I have my favorites that I've come across throughout the years. For example, Orphan Number 8, amazing. Because it's not about someone's sexuality, you know? And I didn't even realize that would be part of the book until maybe halfway through, when it's kind of revealed that this girl that she grew up with and her lived together and shared an apartment, and you're like, oh, that's her wife, that's her partner, and it clicks. But the plot isn't about that, you know, it's about her childhood as an orphan. That one I highly recommend. Sing You Home by Jodi Picoult, that one was also pretty well done. I will say I was 17 when I read it, so almost 10 years ago, and I don't remember it that clearly, so if it's not as great as I remember it being, please keep in mind I read it as a child. And at the time I thought that I was straight. I was so in denial about it. I literally thought that I was just trying to support someone in my life that I knew who was gay, and that's why I loved gay content so much. Girl Hearts Girl by Lucy, I don't know how to say her last name. She is a YouTuber. It's a memoir about her coming out journey and falling in love for the first time. And if you're an OG YouTuber or viewer like I am, Kaylin and Lucy, if you watch their channel, it's that story. And that one's really well done. So there are some good ones out there, but you know, it's hard to find some. And this one missed the mark, but at the same time I couldn't put it down. It's not really what I usually read, but if this is someone's type of book that they love, I don't want to offend you. I read one review about this book on a blog where someone said, I can't believe it's finally been done. They made a gay book for straight people. I don't want to tear the book apart because it was pretty easy and fluffy and, you know, like a love story and whatnot, but there are definitely some problematic subjects in here, a lot of stereotypes and stuff like that. But again, I read it in like 2 days, and that was the last book that I finished in 2021, because the next book that I started, I didn't finish until 2022, and it was called Olivia. This is a well done queer book written in the late 1940s. Okay, I'm gonna deep dive into a little geeky postmodern facts for a sec, but postmodernism is my favorite time period. I am a whore for Virginia Woolf and the Bloomsbury Group, and Dorothy Strachey was part of the Bloomsbury Group. And this book is actually dedicated to Virginia Woolf, to the beloved memory of VW, and VW stands for Virginia Woolf. That's why I love this book. There's so much history about it, and it was written at such a pivotal time, and there's this great introduction in here by Andre Ackerman. I'm so sorry, I'm just not familiar with him, but he's also from the Bloomsbury Group, and he kind of gives you the context behind this. Oh my god, the first rough draft was actually written in 1933, but I think it was finalized in 1949. It was first published in 1949. If you like postmodernism, if you like Virginia Woolf, if you like William Faulkner, the period where it delves into emotions, it's like literally cubism in literature. And if you're a geek with the arts, then you know exactly what I'm saying, and if you're not, you're probably not still even watching this video. Olivia is a student in Paris at a boarding school who becomes absolutely infatuated by her teacher. It talks about your first love and how you don't love as hard as your first love, and how your first love is an obsession, and it captures that obsessed sweet 16 infatuation that you have with someone, and it is so raw and so beautifully written because it is written like almost 100 years ago. The language in this is stunning, and it's spot on. If anybody has ever been in love with their high school teachers, I'm guilty of this. And if you know me from high school, like personally, you know exactly who this is, because I can remember so many people being like, you're in love with her or you're obsessed with her. This is just beautifully done. It's considered a short story. It took me a couple days to read, and I could not put this baby down. And it's innocent, you know, the teacher doesn't do anything wrong, but you also know that her teacher, Mademoiselle Julie, like definitely loves her, but she never crosses the line, and it just infuriates Olivia, the child, who doesn't understand, you know? She doesn't understand why the teacher might be cold to her or telling her to go to her room. It's a heartbreaking story. It's just so well done. That's all I'm gonna say, but I really, really love this book, and I love classic literature and postmodern literature, so if you do too, you might really enjoy this. And if not, it's a quick read, and if you like queer stories, and if you were once in love with your teacher as a child, you will love this book. It's a very well done, sweet, classic, LGBT friendly book, which is rare to find written in the 30s. Granted, she first published it anonymously. I love this book so much. I will always treasure it, and this does something that this will never be able to do. So take that info as you will. Okay, now that I've rambled on for like half an hour, that is what I read in 2021. And here are all of the books that I have purchased to read this year. I guess I'll start with the book that I'm currently reading, and that is Jodi Picoult's The Book of Two Ways. Jodi Picoult is my favorite current fiction writer, like the one that's alive and writing books during our time. I love the way she writes, and this book found me at the perfect time. Even though I read it a year after receiving it, it could not be more perfect. It talks a lot about death, which freaks me out, but also comforts me. This novel also has very, very high focuses on Egyptian history and mummies and how Egyptians interpreted the afterlife. There are so many quantum physics theories that I firmly believe in that I didn't realize correlated so well. I feel like I recently had a very, very near-death experience, but then again, I think every single day we're so lucky to have survived, and there were probably so many near-death experiences that we live through that we don't even realize we are living through. But there was this one instance, and it really, really haunted me for, I mean, it still does. I have PTSD from the experience, but it shakes me because I think, oh my God, I could have died, I could have died. And then I fear, what if I did die? In some alternative universe, I died. And this kind of goes over that, you know, in that alternative universe where you died, you'll never know if you did because you're only conscious in this universe. I don't know, it's good. I love her. You should definitely read this if you like fiction and Jodi Picoult. Bear with me because we have a lot of books to show and I'm gonna go rapid fire speed, okay? This year I want to read The Universe Has Your Back, Manic by Terry Cheney. This is a memoir about having bipolar, and if you're new here, or I haven't really mentioned it in a while, I have bipolar. Trauma stewardship, an everyday guide to caring for self while caring for others. I love learning about trauma. Should be really interesting. Oh, I forgot a book. I have another book that I'm reading. It's downstairs in my sunroom, but it's called Reasons to Stay Alive. On the subject of trauma and mental health, I've heard wonderful things about this next book, but it didn't start with you. How inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end the cycle. I've heard a lot of people on various social media praise this book, and it got an award. Awakening to the Fifth Dimension by Kimberly Meredith. Oh yeah, love my spiritual books and I want to awaken to the fifth dimension. Going off of that, let's whip out all the spirituality books so that if you are not into that, you can kind of just skip ahead. I have another book by Pema Chodron. I really hope I'm saying her name right. It's called The Places That Scare You. I really liked her book When Things Fall Apart, and this is a guide to fearlessness in difficult times, and the title, The Places That Scare You, really drew me in. The Book of Secrets, Unlocking the Hidden Dimensions of Your Life. Like I mentioned, I did, where did I put it now? Oh my God. I did read his pocketbook on the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. So as soon as I finished that, I saw this at Majors and Quinn bookstore and knew I had to get it because I loved his writing. And I want to know the secrets, the Book of Secrets. Like, tell me more. I also purchased another book by him called You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. That's it for spirituality. Kind of a side subject before we dive into other books that I got. Life Before Life, Children's Memories of Previous Lives. I am pretty positive that reincarnation is a thing, and there have just been so many stories like the children that remember past lives and then have like knowledge that proves it, that there's no way that they could know, you know? Also, like, souls, I think, recycle back and we travel with our own soul families. So like the people in your life are usually in all of your lives, but they might be, if they're your mother in this life, it could be your sister in another, or your best friend, or your partner, which I love, and I feel very comforted by that. The Logger Queen of Minnesota. Represent. Anyone from Minnesota watching this video, comment down below. It's a novel how this woman on her family farm learned about the IPA business and built one from the ground up right here in Minnesota. And I love beer, and I love women in business, and I love Minnesota history, so it's got all the things. Okay, next book. YouTuber Connor Franta. We all love him. He's from Minnesota. There's nothing he can't do. He's beyond talented, and he came out with a second book, House Fires. I'm so excited to read it. Actually, is this his third book? This is his third book, actually, and I've read Note to Self and then his first book, which I cannot remember what it's called, but they're both in my YouTube office right now. On the topic of memoir, I also got Broken Horses, a memoir by Brandi Carlile. I love Brandi Carlile. I love her music. I've been a fan of hers since high school, and it's so funny because in high school, I didn't know that she was gay. And I didn't know I was gay. I mean, maybe, but like not really, you know? It was one of those things where I was like, why do I love her so much? Why do I love her music? Why do I feel connected to her? And then I followed her on Instagram and saw that she had a wife and a kid, and I was like, oh my God, am I... am I also like this? But her music is beautiful and it helped me through hard times, and I just love all of her albums. Like I said earlier, you know, it's such a struggle to find a well-written book about a lesbian or has queer representation. It's hard to find ones that are well written, but because I know Brandi Carlile and I've been a fan of her for like 10 years, oh my God, I'm so old. I know bits and pieces of stories about her songs that I love that she wrote, you know, 10 years ago. I'm excited to kind of learn more about beyond the song. I feel like the way that the world felt when Betty White died is how I feel about Joan Didion, but they're both equally just as sad. Joan Didion is a woman that we did not deserve. She was so talented. Her writing is so well done in the most simplest but complex ways, and she always writes exactly what you're thinking without you even realizing that's how you felt. The day she passed was the day that I kind of had my breakdown and spent hundreds of dollars in books, and I was sad walking around Barnes & Noble. So I was on a mission to purchase as many Joan Didion books as I could find because I didn't own all of them, and suddenly she became a writer of the past, and I just really wanted to honor her. So I purchased Joan Didion's Let Me Tell You What I Mean. I also purchased South and West by Joan Didion, and then I also purchased a novel that she wrote called Play It As It Lays. I posted a photo of like all the books that I bought that night on Instagram on my close friends list, and I actually got a handful of people that I know respond saying this is amazing, so I'm so excited to read it. I also purchased a book called One Last Stop. This book got mixed reviews, so definitely let me know what you think of it if you are familiar with it. It's a queer novel about these two girls that fall in love on a train. I did a lot of like research on reviews on queer books because I just didn't know if it's gonna be worth my time, honestly. For the majority, it seems like this one was pretty well received. I'll let you know. I'm excited to read it and kind of get lost in a fictional fairy tale because I think there's some like time traveling that happens here too. That's why I was kind of skeptical, because it's not typically what I read, but I want to try to read more women-loving women books. I also purchased another very similar book that came up as a recommended one after I ordered this, but it hasn't arrived yet, and I think it's called Written in the Stars or something, and that one's about two girls that fall in love, but has a lot more to do with astrology, so hopefully I like that. And then I also got this book for Christmas. It's called Things Are What You Make of Them, Life Advice for Creatives, and it's a little bit more coffee table-esque, you know? It's got like the aesthetics of ripped notebook papers and little notes. Good book to flip through on a rainy day. And then I have 3 books that I bought for 2021 that I haven't read yet. Hopefully I read these in 2022. We have You Are a Badass Every Day by Jen Sincero, and then Badass Habits by her as well. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. We did it! Those are all the books that I have read or am planning to read. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I was very back and forth about whether or not to post this video, thinking no one's gonna care, but you know what? I want to share and I care, so definitely subscribe if you came across this video and like this content, because it'll help me know if I should do more. And I assume at this point the only people listening or watching are those that also love to read as much as I do, so please let me know if you have any recommendations based on the books that I have read or am planning to read that you think I would enjoy. I wish you the best new year. I hope you read a lot of books this year and it brings you joy. Yeah, now I have to go back to the other video I was filming today and finish that. So if you haven't seen that yet, please go watch it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!